I think the most start with a bang. The most pressing thought for me, and what always drives me forward, is just that I don't even know what it is. It's just something inside me that just never wants to give up. I go through stages where I think, oh my God, has the universe got it in for me? Why am I facing another challenge now?
Things have tended to appear in front of you, and you jumped at it with both feet and both hands. So you transition then from accounting into, I guess, real estate.
I mean, a lot of people are not, and they're stuck. And the only reason you're stuck is because you're living in the past, in my opinion.
Hello, welcome Team ET. Today is truly a special episode that we've got lined up for you. It's about true grit, as well as determination, resilience, perseverance, all of the buzzwords you want to talk about, we've got them. I would say above all, it's about crushing limiting beliefs and holding a mindset that we are enough as we are, and with the right team around us, everything's possible. And I think many of you will probably have heard me talk about my book fetish. I love to consume and learn from those that have taken the time to simplify what I term as the complexity of their life and then translate it into print. And, typically we share journeys, experiences, life lessons, insights, whether that's business, leadership, personal transitions. I'm all in, and therefore you may have noticed that many of my guests are authors as well as industry leaders. So there's a great chance that today we're going to have another author. And of course, that's the case. Not only an author, but so much has happened in our guest's life, and we're going to be unpacking that through the book that she's just released back in October. The book is called Unread Pages, The Silent Struggle Between Every Success. And literally that's the title explains our guest's rollercoaster life. So with that said, please join me in welcoming Miss Marnie Beauchamp to the ET Project. Marnie, welcome. It's such a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
I would normally ask our guests to share a little bit about their journey and the key milestones along the way, but your book does such a great job in bringing all that to life. So we're going to unpack that during our discussion. Instead,
Sure.
What I'd like to take a moment and acknowledge is you. You're such a warrior. It's been a heck of a ride through your life up until this point. And at the end of the book, and I'm basing my comments now to the listeners, I'm basing my comments on what I've read through the book. So I don't know Marnie personally, but it seems like at this point in your life, you've now arrived at a different place from where you were not so long ago through the coaching and what you what I'm really curious about, and I'm wondering, as you wake up each day, what's the most pressing thought that really drives you and keeps you moving forward?
Actually, it's a tough one. I think the most start with a bang. The most pressing thought for me, and what always drives me forward, is just that I don't even know what it is. It's just something inside me that just never wants to give up. And I'm always looking for something more. I'm always looking for how I can better myself and how I can inspire others. I think the big thing at the moment for me, as opposed to, my journey and doing what I want to do for me, is helping how I can inspire and help others, because that's been my passion over the years with building my businesses, is in mentoring the teams and growing them as, people in their own right, and, helping them to achieve their success. So I would say that what drives me at the moment is that, more so than my goals and that sort of thing. Right. Although I do have my app, I'm really pushing it to get out there. But yeah.
Very good.
I think that's it.
We'll get into all of that as we go through the conversation. Yeah. As I read through the book, I have to say I love the book. As I read through, another person came to mind that your life tends to, I won't say mimic their life, but because it's not about that. But David Goggins, I know we spoke about David Goggins the first time we connected. You know, if any of the listeners have read David Goggins, he's got 2 books out now. The first was Can't Hurt Me, a great book. But last year he released a book called Never Finished, and for me it was even better than the first book. And when I read your book, Marnie, you know, there's so many similarities in not so much in the life, but in the mindset and your approach to never giving up. And I think that's one of the phrases that you use. You have this enormous ability, this resilience, to keep getting up, to keep moving forward, regardless of, you know, how many setbacks you've faced, how many times you've been knocked down. So, to my point, you're really a warrior, and it was a great read. So, thank you for publishing.
It's a pleasure. I really appreciate that feedback, and that seems to be the majority of what people are saying and what's resonating with them is the fact that, you know, a lot of that stuff, and the reason I call it the secret struggles behind every success is because it's not stuff that we talk about, right? When we're, you know, going through life, and especially as business owners and things like that, you kind of have this, you know, I guess this inner strength that you have no choice but to have, but it's not something that the hard times aren't things that you want to share. They're things that you just get on with. Well, as far as I'm concerned anyway. So many people didn't know about those hard times. And so a lot of people have been coming back to me that, you know, have known me or do know me over the years and said, I had no idea that you're going through all of that stuff along the way. So yeah, it's just, it was a hard thing to do though. It was quite cathartic, but putting yourself out there like that and sharing a lot of that stuff with the world wasn't an easy thing initially. But once I started writing and I sort of started getting into it, I could see the power that it could have in helping others, empowering others.
We'll unpack it in more detail, but I had to smile to myself that you have so many things that have happened that sometimes you just do a trauma dump during the book, like stalker, surgery, passing away, you know, or divorce, and you dump it all on one page type of thing. So it was quite amazing.
And that's what I do. I tend to have my little moments where I have my little like, oh, and then I go, you know what, I'm just going to lean into this. I'm going to find out what it's going to teach me. And I'm just going to, I feel like my whole thing is that the sooner that you actually lean into these things and let yourself feel and go through those emotions, the easier it is to then start to move on. Otherwise it just drags you down indefinitely. So
yeah, I love that. There's a great saying that Goggins made me rethink about it, and then reading your book, I've written it down because it reminded me of it. I'm not sure where it comes from. I have a feeling it's a Buddhist saying. It goes back some way. It's pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. And as I read your book, that rings so true in your mind, and your approach to dealing with adversity. So yeah, I like that saying, but having read your book, I can really understand it. So again, the book is called Unread Pages: The Silent Struggle Between Every Success. It's a really personal account. What was the motivation for putting pen to paper in the first place?
I've always loved writing, and I've always had a dream of writing a book. And I actually started writing another book, which will probably be my second book. But the other book was more a bit of a real estate agent survival guide, I guess, all the things they don't really tell you when you go into the industry. And I started writing that, and then I started to think about my journey and all the things that I've encountered and faced along the way, not only within the real estate but within business. And I had a publisher that reached out to me, and through I think it was just through a Facebook post in a group that I'm in about writing books, and we started to talk about what I would have to write about and content and that sort of thing. And then during that process, I talked to her about my journey, and she was the one that said to me, Marnie, that's what you need to write about. That needs to be your first book. That's your leverage. That's your, you know, that shows what you've actually faced up to and overcome. So that's sort of where it came from. And that's when I sort of started to think about writing about my life. And people have said to me over the years many times, you need to write a book, you need to read a book. But I guess I just didn't know whether it was going to be something people would want to hear. You know, you always go through that process, especially when it's about your life. You think, well, is it going to be interesting? Are other people going to take something from it? So it took me a little bit to get over that. But then, as my friend said to me, Mum, it doesn't matter if it's going to be something that you're going to enjoy and it's going to be a dream for you to write a book, then do it. So, yeah.
Very nice. Well, I'm pleased that whoever prompted you and whatever it took to get all this on paper, thank you. It's, again, a great read, and I really encourage listeners to get out there and find it. It's probably available. Amazon, I guess, is the best place to find it, or is it in the bookstore?
Yeah, so if you do, absolutely, yeah. So if you just search my name, and it's actually the silent struggles behind every success, then you'll find it. It comes up. So there's an ebook and a paperback version available in Australia. In the States, you can get the hardcover. It's also on Barnes and Noble. Global distribution into bookstores is going to be happening in the next 4 to 6 weeks. So it's only fairly new to the market. So only been for maybe 3 months now, and then 2 months, sorry. And then the audiobook is due to be out. I think I get the final edits today. So I'm hoping to have that up on Audible within the next week, by the end of this week. Yeah, which is pretty exciting. There's a lot of people waiting for the audiobook. So that's good.
Yeah. I may even get it on audio as well. So very good.
Thank you.
Let's start to work our way through the book. As I said, I don't want to go through chapter by chapter and give the whole. But there's moments in the book where you share insights or personal learnings as you've been through the journey, and that really resonates with what I like to see as an outcome. So maybe if we just look at the broad context, and then we can talk more about those learnings from it. So teenage years, it sounded like a pretty tumultuous period in your life.
Yeah, it was. I look back and I think, compared to what a lot of kids go through, it wasn't so bad. But we all handle things differently. And with my personality, I think, there was definitely times there where I felt really challenged and I felt really uncomfortable and I felt very much out of my comfort zone. And I think being brought up in that environment where my dad was a real go-getter, and as I spoke about in the book, he loved anything to do with speed, fast racing speed. And so I was always very close to my dad, so whatever he did I wanted to do. So my whole business desire to have my business came from him as well. But yes, teenage years were a little bit tumultuous. My parents separated at a time where I was probably at one of my most impressionable ages, and anything like that where there's confrontations and the combative environment is hard, and especially for kids. So I took a lot of learning out of that when I've now been through the same situation. My girls were very young when I separated from their dad, so I took a lot from that and made sure that when that happened with us, that both my husband and I put our kids first, and they were never involved in anything at all. So it's meant that their upbringing has always been just full of love and support from both of us, which has been great.
It's definitely a hard period. Hard enough growing up as a teenager, but when the family is also not functioning so well, it becomes doubly or equally as difficult. One of the things you developed as a result, I believe, at least maybe it happened before, but you talk about the need to be able to please others or to help others.
Yes.
And and not
Yeah.
disappointment, right? And how did that come about? Like, was there a particular trigger that set you on that path? Like, what was the moment where you realized that?
I didn't realize that until adult life, to be honest with you. And writing the book again reinstated that probably the timing where it actually happened, but how it's actually developed so much over the years without me even being aware of it. And as soon as I became aware of it, it made it much easier for me to manage it. But yes, I think one, being the only girl in the family and, wanting to do everything my dad did and my brothers did, I always had that desire to make him proud of me, and that was probably the beginning of it, and to keep up with them. So I always sort of pushed myself and whatever I did to make sure that I did it really well, so that I was up there with that where they were. But then I think when the family dynamics started to change, and some other things happened, it definitely made me take responsibility for that. And I don't know why I took responsibility for that, but I did. And I blamed myself for, the family dynamic falling apart. And maybe it was my fault that dad wasn't there anymore and all that sort of stuff. So, which is not true at all. And obviously over the years with maturity, I, spoke to them both and learned some more about the situation and everything. So that obviously helped. But I definitely had this, this drive to always make sure that everyone's happy, take responsibility for other people, look after everybody else, put everybody else first. And that's what I have done my whole life. It's almost been impossible for me to say no to somebody until, as I said, until I started to recognize what I was doing. I had this desire, this perfectionist desire that is impossible to achieve. I mean, perfection is not a thing, right? I mean, nobody's perfect. But for me, I think that's why I pushed myself so hard, was because I never felt like I was living up to my own expectations, not anyone else's. They were just my own. So it was
How
just,
much did that, sorry to cut you off, how much did that play out as you started to move into business? Was that still something in the back of your psyche about the business needs to be successful so that I look successful and therefore I please other people? Was that part of the driving force?
Yeah, it was part of the driving force. I think it's really weird, when as I say in the book, when I went into, especially that first business, everyone was saying to me, "Are you sure? What if it doesn't work?" But I never, ever considered that it didn't work. I think because I have spent my whole life, pushing myself and getting to where I wanted to be by doing that I had that confidence in myself. So it's definitely been a driving factor. And that's why the bad that comes with it, with that the stuff, the turmoil inside when you're not living up to your expectations, and the self control and all that kind of stuff when things don't go the way you want them to. That's obviously been the negative, but the positives has been giving me that drive and giving me that confidence and belief in myself that if I really work hard enough and I try and do everything that I know I need to do, then I can achieve anything. So yeah, it's been a big part of it, I believe, anyway.
Incredible.
Yeah.
You also have a great learning coming out of it, that all of life's experiences happen for a reason. And that seems to be a theme or a thread throughout the book. When did you realize that? Is it only in hindsight now that you see that, or?
Yeah, it is only in hindsight. I go through stages where I think, oh my God, has the universe got it in for me? Why am I facing another challenge now? But then, as I say in the book, I don't believe that that's the case. I believe that it's because it's still teaching me stuff, and it's making me realize that I need to trust my gut, and I need to have, I guess, that confidence in me to have my own space and to look after me, first and foremost, which has been a hard thing over the years, but it's something that I've definitely learned, and writing the book just reinforced a lot of that stuff for me. And that's why I wanted to put the takeaways in there as well, because it's not all doom and gloom. Yes, it's hard, and life's always going to be hard, but there's always a silver lining, right?
If you're open to it.
If you're
And
open to it, yeah, that's right. I mean, a lot of people are not, and they're stuck. And the only reason you're stuck is because you're living in the past, in my opinion. You know, you've just got to constantly keep moving forward. And I have another really good saying that I love, and that is that if you don't change, then you're choosing. So you're choosing to be in that situation. You're choosing to feel those feelings over and over again. You know, if we want our lives to change, then we have to change. It's as simple as that.
right,
So,
right.
yeah.
There may be some psychologists on the listener base, and I'm sure they would love to jump in here and elaborate on that, but that's not my field. So
No.
you you achieved so much early in life. So we've touched on teenage years, but already I think you went into work at 18, and by 21 you, or maybe even before 21, right? If I remember in the book, you take your first trip overseas. It was going to be with your best friend, and then she couldn't go, so you set off overseas by yourself. Step us through that, the anxiety that must have existed around that. Here you are, a young Aussie girl, um, obviously loved her family, did everything, and now you're about to set off overseas on this adventure. Admittedly, her auntie is over in England, but you're heading off into the great unknown by yourself. It must have been quite the journey at the beginning.
It was actually very, very daunting. I'd only just turned 18. So I started work at 17, just turned 18. And I guess the friend that I was going with, we'd been mates since we were 4 years old. So she was more like a sister to me. And I had so much confidence going with her. And then all of a sudden I was just stuck, and I thought, what do I do? And as I said to you, I had initially thought I'm just going to wait until she's ready. And I'm so glad I didn't, because I don't think she would have ever been ready to this day. She's never done a trip like that. So I just, my parents were the ones that said to me, you can do this. You don't need anybody else. You can do this. And I am a bit of an introvert when it comes to social situations. I'm not one that's very comfortable walking up and just introducing myself to people and things like that. I'm getting better at it. But at that time, it was a massive, massive thing for me to do that. So a lot of tears, a lot of nerves. I was shaking like a leaf when I got on that plane. But it turned out to be one of the best things I ever did. It instilled that confidence in me that I should just jump into the unknown. I should take these leaps of faith, because they turn out to be the best things that ever happen to me every time I do it. So It was an opportunity that I knew that if I let it go, I would spend the rest of my life kicking myself, and I probably wouldn't have gotten there. So I'm really, really thankful that I did it. And it was amazing. It was amazing. And it just instilling that confidence in me and being on my own, and, having to fend for myself. Those days there was no mobile phones, there was no email, there was no social media. So I had no contact really with my family, except for finding local payphones and all that sort of stuff. So, and postcards when we used to write those. A long time ago.
I'm reminiscing myself. Kentucky tours at the time that I recall being of the age for a Kentucky tour. I read your comments in the book, and I had to smile, because I know what you were talking about, what you were going through, and what
I'm
you
glad.
were doing. So I'm not
I'm
sure.
so glad when I was writing that. I thought, people are going to think I'm like this grub, but it's true.
No,
Living out of a suitcase, right? Or a backpack.
Yeah, exactly. Backpackers.
Yeah.
You have a comment that you refer to a lot in the book. It's called the sliding door moments, and it's essentially the transitions, or moments in your career or in your life when something has happened. And then you also have the tidal wave, and the tidal wave tends to be the trauma. The sliding door moment tends to be the opportunity, and that's me paraphrasing what you.
That's very true.
You fall into an opportunity to become an accountant, essentially, or to work in accounting. And as you say in the book, you have no passion whatsoever for maths or for accounting. And yet you end up doing, I think you go to college or university and study 3 years thereabouts, I guess, to get your qualifications. Is that what happened?
Yeah, I did. I was offered that opportunity, and obviously, as you said, it wasn't something that I really wanted to do. It certainly wasn't. I wasn't even good at maths at school, so I don't know how we're going to go here. But I thought this opportunity has come to me for a reason. And knowing that I had wanted a business and things like that, I thought, well, it's going to be a great foundation to build a business, having that financial knowledge. So I took that opportunity and I ran with it, and I thought, I'm just going to see where this ends up. And I could have had an awesome career in accounting. At 21, I was traveling all over Australia to all of our subsidiary companies, doing their quarterly accounts and things like that, which, at my age and whatever, was a pretty big thing. But, ultimately I knew it wasn't where I wanted to be, but I don't regret doing it whatsoever. And it's definitely helped me a lot over the years.
Yeah, it's interesting. How do you find, I'm jumping around the place at the moment, but based on that, with AI and the developments in AI, how is that helping from a financial perspective in business today? Like, have you had experience with the changes that's making, based on your accounting background?
Yeah, not a lot, because I haven't really jumped too much into the AI except from the real estate perspective. So, but I do know that there's so much more out there that can help these days. Nothing's really done manually. You know what I mean? Everything is just much easier and more streamlined, and then it's much easier to print off the reports and stuff. And even with things like Xero and stuff like that, it's as long as you input the data, you can pull out whatever you want, whereas we didn't have that in those days. So I think it had a really big impact for me early on. And then obviously I wasn't going to do my own accounts as my business grew. So I had bookkeepers and accountants and all that sort of thing, which took over anyway. But just be able to know what my key numbers were, what my financial dashboard had to look like, being able to do my cash flow forecasts, all that kind of stuff was really powerful, especially when it came to the second round of businesses, joining that new franchise. They're all the things that I had to supply to them. And I know now with a lot of my clients, when they go into business, they don't know how to do any of that stuff. So it's definitely come in handy to help with all of that.
Yeah, I think it's such a major oversight for many entrepreneurial people that have this great concept, but they don't really have a sound understanding of finance. And I believe it's definitely never a burden to have that depth of knowledge.
No,
so very
not at all. Yeah.
But you don't stay in accounting. The opportunities seem to appear in front of you, and I really admire the fact that you are open enough to those possibilities for them to appear. I think that's something that really resonated or stood out to me as I was reading through the book, that because of your approach to life, things have tended to appear in front of you, and you jumped at it with both feet and both hands. So you transitioned then from accounting into, I guess, real estate.
Yeah, I did. I transitioned initially into property development, which again, as you said, just came out of nowhere. And I was thinking, I don't know anything about real estate or property, and it certainly wasn't a career path that was on my radar at all. But again, it was exciting. And I thought, well, it's going to be something new, something I can learn. And so why not give it a go? And that's what I did. And 5 years in the development industry before another opportunity presented itself. And then I ended up in residential real estate sales, and I did some development work as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm a big believer in opportunities presenting themselves if you are open to it. And there's someone said to me one day, and I don't know if it's true, that we get something like 126 new opportunities every day, but nobody even realizes to change our lives and take a new path. It's funny. So yeah, I don't know if that's true, but it was interesting when they said that.
Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah, to this point, I think it was the age 21. You're given the opportunity to become a 50% owner of a business. I mean, not many 21-year-olds have that luxury, or even whether it's a luxury, maybe the wrong word, but are presented with that type of opportunity. So incredible
Yeah.
turn of events for you. Again, you grab it with both hands, you dive in,
Mhm.
and within 12 months, you've actually become the sole owner. You've purchased the other half of the business.
Yes,
Incredible.
yeah, so I was actually a bit older. I was sort of just mid to late 20s. But
Okay.
but yeah, I had that conversation. My dad said to me, because I turned out that I actually love real estate and I was quite good at it. And I was transforming that business anyway. And my dad said to me, you should have a chat to the franchisor who owned that business and say to him, if he ever wanted to sell a share or whatever, that you'd be interested. And I said, well, okay, thinking it would be well and truly down the track. But it wasn't. And yeah, he offered me a 50% share because I think that just that first year that I was there, he could see what I was doing. And I guess that was going to be a good opportunity for him as well, because he wasn't spending any time in the business really. And then after the next year, the business just took off. I was employing new people. I increased the profitability by over 400% in that first year. And so I just thought to myself, I'm doing this. And I obviously then had that confidence that all this stuff was happening because of me and what I was doing. So I thought, why not buy all of it and just take the reins and not have to share 50% of all this profit and all this stuff that I was doing without much input, which is fine. That's just the way it was. It was more of a silent partner. But yeah, so that's what I did. Again, it was just that timing and everything for me probably wasn't great, but I just knew that if I didn't do it then, I would be down the track. It'd be a harder thing to do because the business was just going to get better and better, and then I was going to be having to pay more money for it. So I thought I'd do it now and then put all the effort in.
One of the things that stood out to me in many of the transactions or the businesses is your work ethic. I'm wondering, is that also something that you gleaned from your father, or was that more of a inherent trait that you seem to have? So you're a very hard worker, you're very diligent, and you had this mindset that you wanted to always be the best at what you were doing. Where did that come from?
I think some of it must have come from my dad. He was a hard worker as well. He worked long hours and, he was always very determined. He never had a mindset that something might not work out. So I think there's definitely an element that came from him. But I think also those things that I built up in myself about the perfectionism and the wanting to make people proud of me, I think that was also a big part of it. That kind of just amplified what I'd gotten from my dad over the years, and that in itself I think was what just pushed me. I didn't ever want, I talk about failure as a lesson, and we all fail every day. We fail. Sometimes you set your alarm and you don't get up. That's, failing essentially. But I don't know if it was I didn't want to fail. I don't think I ever thought about failure. I think it was more that I just knew that I wanted it to be successful. And I wanted it to be the best that it could be. Yeah. So that meant doing whatever it took, basically.
Right. You also talk about having to learn to become a leader. And you list out, and I'm not going to go through them now, but in one of the chapters, excuse me, you list out some of the things that you had to work on in becoming a leader, demonstrating competence, being open to learning, etc. How did you learn these things? Was it through hand-on experience? Did you do study, like combination of both? What was the process for you?
So I think it was mostly hands-on experience, but I did get, some business books, and I was reading a lot of stuff and talking to my dad and things like that. But most of all, it was just working in that environment and knowing how I would feel. So I always put myself in other people's shoes and think, well, if I was in this situation, how would I want that person to treat me? How would I expect them to treat me? What would make me work harder? And so for me, that's what I always think about as a leader. I don't ever have that, I'm the boss, you're the employee mentality. That's just not me. The way I work is by creating connection with empathy, and finding out what it is that my team expect from me, and being there for them, showing up for them, supporting them, and helping them with their growth. A lot of people can just excel so much with nurturing, or most people's, that saying about the flower doesn't grow if it's in the wrong environment, right? So for me, that's what it was all about. And I think that was just an innate thing. I don't remember ever learning about that anywhere. But as I said, I came into the business literally as a trainee, and then I was their boss within no time, 12 months. And they were all a lot older, like they all had a good 40 years on me and they'd been in the industry for a very long time. So I couldn't expect to come in there and for them just to respect me. And I couldn't expect to come in there and for them to take my lead and, start doing everything that I wanted to do. And so I just made sure that I earned their respect first. I kept asking them how I could help them. I kept talking to them about where I wanted to take the business, getting their advice. If there was things that I wasn't sure about, I would ask them. There's no harm. Just because you're the leader doesn't mean that you can't learn from your staff. You can't learn from other employees and people, because, sometimes they do have more experience in certain areas, whether they're a leader or not. So yeah, it took a bit of time, but I think the way I did it was, I think, the best way I could do it, because it made everybody comfortable. Everybody could then see what I was doing in the business and how it was then rubbing off on everybody else and helping everybody else. So as a whole, everybody was lifting. It wasn't just me, and it wasn't just the overall business. So once I, connected with them and showed them that, then they had belief in me and they had respect for me without me doing anything differently. So I think I think that's what's important as a leader.
Such an important lesson, I think, for all leaders. I had a mentor who said to me, the worst thing that can happen to your career is for you to become the smartest person in the room. You need to surround yourself with people that are smarter than you, because that way together you keep achieving and growing. So yeah, I like it very much. Now, so far it's been all roses. Life's been good up until this point. And then, as your title in one of the chapters says, the walls come tumbling down. It was a tough period for sure. I purposely don't want to go too deep into that, because I want to leave something for the readers to get engrossed with the book about. But it was a particularly tough time by reading what you were going through, to the point where you essentially become bankrupt and shut down in life. How do you? I've also been bankrupt, so I can empathize with you. But how did you crawl from that? How did you come back? What was the impetus that really helped you to come back from that point?
I think the biggest thing for me is looking at the bigger picture, knowing why I couldn't stay in that place, and also having that understanding that that I had to fix it. I had to make the changes, and I had to get up and do it again. Nobody was coming to rescue me. Nobody was going to do it for me. My daughters were very young, so obviously they were probably my main driving force. I didn't want that life for them. I didn't want them to have a mum who just gave up, and for them to be brought up, having nothing. So I definitely think that whole attitude of this is not going to be my life was what got me back up again. And I had my downtime, obviously, licking my wounds and all that kind of thing. but there's no way that I was just staying in that space. I knew that I had done it once and I knew that I could do it again. I needed a bit of a breather, which I took. Very, very short one in the end, but I was hoping it would be longer, but it wasn't. But that's just the way it goes. And you know, I'm a big believer in things are going to happen in life. Life's always going to be hard. We can never predict it. We're never guaranteed of tomorrow. So our life is really up to us, right? We're the only ones that can make the decision about what we want and how we're going to get it. So for me, it was just one day waking up and saying, all right, I'm done. I'm over crying. I'm over licking my wounds. I know I've got a mountain of debt that I've got to get over, but I'm going to do it. As long as it takes, I'm going to do it. So I found something somewhere. I don't know where, but I just knew that I had to do it again.
Not only did you decide to do it, you did it. So it's one thing to have that epiphany, if you like, that I know I need to make a change. I know that I've got to really step up. But many people have that knowledge, but they don't take that action. And I congratulate you on doing that. And you did it not only in half, you did it to the point where you become Business Person of the Year. You and your business, your team win so many awards.
Yes.
All the while, still in the background, you're still overcoming enormous debt. You're paying back debt. You have personal loss. And then here comes the trauma dump. Stalkers on spinal surgery, 200-kilometer bike rides. You know, you just push through all of these things, and you know, to your credit, it's such a inspiring, powerful journey that we go on with you in the book. So, having taken the time to put it down on paper, how do you feel about your life? Like, now that you've looked at it in hindsight and you reflected on it and you've taken the time to actually write the book, how do you feel about it? Like, what would change if you changed anything, or would you change anything?
It's hard to say because I look back and obviously there's things that I would change. There's decisions made that I would probably think twice about, and there's, you know, pressures and stuff that I've put on myself over the years that I'd probably ease up on and not be so hard on myself and whatever, not self-blame, all that kind of stuff. I guess I wouldn't do again. But in saying that, everything that's happened has shaped me to who I am today. Do you know what I mean? Like it's given me so much wisdom. It's given me so much insight into life and how much we should be cherishing life and how important every day is. And it's so I don't know. I obviously, there would be things I would change, but I look at it and people could just think there's so much. They're like, that's so much to get through and I don't know how you did it. But when it's happening to you, it's different because you're just in that moment and you don't have a choice but to deal with it. You know, or some people do, I guess, but for me, there was no choice. There was only the choice to just keep moving forward and knowing that the storm would eventually end. But it definitely wasn't easy. Let's just say that. And when I did sort of move to Sydney in the end, I was tired. I was mentally, emotionally, physically tired. But again, I just gave myself the space I needed and then came to a whole new realm of realization on things and then got up and starting again. Yeah.
You have a couple of traits that you say are really critical. Strength lies not in isolation, but in collaboration. I am a personal believer in that 100%. And then you also talk about accountability in specific roles, but overall accountability being so important. Again, right on board with that as well. So let's talk about where you are now. I mean, you're in the world of coaching. It's a different world to the world you came out of. How do you find where you are now, but what the future looks like for Marnie.
Yeah, so I'm actually really enjoying the coaching, but after writing the book, I'm really wanting to probably diversify a little bit as well. So into more of that mindset stuff and helping business people and leaders to get through that sort of thing. So yeah, so that's really exciting for me. I've got an app that I'm developing as well, which is again going to be helping people with accountability and performance, and I think it will give some really good, strong growth to people. So that's exciting. Yeah, I'm kind of a little bit open this year though. I haven't really I've set goals around what I want to do and how I want to do it. I've started writing a whole heap of new programs. I'm going to be doing some online courses and stuff around leadership and management, helping people to write their own business models and things like that, which is also exciting. But besides that, I'm just open to seeing where life takes me now. I'm in a good place, obviously, on a lot of levels. So I guess it's just, yeah, I'm not finished though. There's no doubt about that. I'm just not compartmentalizing exactly what I'm going to be doing this year, because I feel like there's just something that's going to probably take me on a different path, and sort of wait and see what that is.
You drop, all looks rosy towards the end, and then right at the end you drop another bombshell about your eyesight and macular dystrophy. I can't even pronounce it, but
dystrophy.
You have a genetic or some sort of eye disorder, and you're
Yes.
slowly going blind. So how do you cope with that? How do you overcome this as you look to the future?
Yeah, this is probably one of my biggest life challenges, to be honest with you. It's been there since I've been 27. I was 27 when I first got diagnosed with it. So it's not like it's something that's just popped up. But to be honest with you, I just don't even, I try really hard not to think about it. I don't face it. I don't sort of accept that that's going to be my fate. But the reality is it's getting more and more difficult for me to do stuff and to read and that sort of thing. Driving is okay to a certain extent, but I know my mum gave up her license, and so did my uncle at the age I am now. So that's a little bit daunting, but again, I'm not going to think about it. But it's just one of those things, I guess. There's no cure for it. They are working on some things, and they have some I don't even know, the research has brought up some things that they do believe will help, but not at the level I'm at. So maybe for my daughters, if they are ever diagnosed with it, hopefully that will be the case. It's just managing it, I guess. And I guess for me, a lot of this health stuff is all about attitude as well, and mindset. So I'm just hoping that I can stop it or slow it or whatever. And I'm also a big believer in food for health and autoimmune diseases, and a lot of that's caused by a lot of processed and foods and things we eat. So trying to keep a really clean diet and exercise and just stay healthy and fit. And yeah, there's not much else I can do. Unfortunately, it's one of those things. If they do find a cure, I'll be very happy. But otherwise, I'm just gonna see where I end up.
Yeah, well, I wish you well. I wish you well with that. But you have another couple of great expressions I just wanted to share, which sort of wrap this up. But you say setbacks are not synonymous with failure, but opportunities for growth. And life is a journey that's really a smooth, linear path. And I think your life epitomizes both of those expressions. And we look at where you are today, and it's so encouraging that, we as humans are so resilient. And you talk about something in the marathon that you ran, that you were feeling completely depleted, but yet you still managed to find more in the tank. And I think that it really is a great synopsis around life and what we as humans are capable of, and you're living proof of it, up there with David Goggins on my heroes list. I would say
that's a big call. Thank you.
Very good.
Thank
so
you.
Marnie, any closing comments or words of wisdom that you can share with our listeners about confronting their demons and pushing through as you have throughout your life? Anything you would offer to them?
I think you've just got to find something. You've just got to keep looking for something that's going to help you to continue to move forward. Whether it's your family, whether it's a goal, whether it's, you can find somebody that you can talk to that's going to inspire you, but it's just not giving up. Like, it doesn't matter what you face or how hard things are. You only fail if you give up, essentially. So for me, sometimes it takes time, and sometimes you've got to, wallow in that moment. And there's nothing wrong with going through that emotion, because I believe that it's better than burying it, because I think burying it just causes anxiety and all sorts of other things. So there's nothing wrong with feeling the trauma and all that sort of thing. But the main thing is that you've just got to remember that you can't do it indefinitely. You just got to find that strength to get up and keep moving forward and find something that's going to, shift the energy, shift that whole momentum that you've got. And everyone can do it. That's the thing, people say all the time, I wish I could do what you do, or I could never do that stuff or whatever. But everybody has a capacity, as you said. We've all got it. You just got to want to do it. Simple as that. And want to change.
How big a role were the friends, the family that you had as you worked through this? Like, if you look back over it now, how critical is the support around you for being able to push forward?
Support's very important, absolutely. I have never been, because I've been so focused on, my family, my daughters and my businesses. I don't have a big friend circle. I've got some very, very incredible friends, and they have been a massive support to me throughout my life, and still are today. Obviously, my family, my dad was always a massive support until, he wasn't here anymore. And then, so then that was probably another big challenge for me, was finding that confidence to find my own way, essentially, and also to trust other people, so that they're going to have my best interests at heart, and to be able to talk to them about things. But yeah, I think lean on people if you need to, because that was one of the things that I've had to learn to do, rather than holding everything inside. And as soon as I've started to do that, the weight shifts so much quicker and so much easier. So definitely have a good support network around you, and make sure that you use them when you need it.
Yeah.
Just don't be the victim. That one that's every day, oh, I'm going to do this.
Great advice. So, Marnie, where can people follow you, connect with you, engage with you?
Yeah, so my socials are just my name, so Marnie Beauchamp. My website's marniebeauchamp.com. The book you can purchase off Amazon or Barnes & Noble, depending where you are, but anywhere in the world you can get it off Amazon. Otherwise, yeah, Facebook is my name. Everything's pretty much in my name. LinkedIn, my name. So yeah, would love to connect.
Very
absolutely
good.
But yeah, you can also message me through my website.
Okay, great. We'll put all those links in the show notes. And one last time, the title of the book?
Unread Pages: The Silent Struggles Behind Every Success.
Great. Well, Marnie, thank you. It's been an excellent conversation. I've really enjoyed connecting, and I look forward to watching as the future unfolds for you. And the next book,
thank you so much.
as it comes on the market. So
the next book. Yes, that's coming. It's just maybe next year, maybe this year. We'll see how it goes.
Well,
thank you for having me.
So what are you waiting for? Hit the subscribe button below and click on the bell icon so I can pop up in your feed occasionally with a great tip for your ultimate growth.